The sky above Washington, D.C. turned purple that morning. Not the soft purple of dawn, but a deep electric purple that made the hair on people's arms stand up. Giant ships, shaped like smooth river stones but larger than football stadiums, hung in the air. They made no sound. They just waited. John Miller stood at the window of the White House meeting room, his tie feeling too tight around his neck. At 45, with graying hair at his temples and steady blue eyes, he had spent his life working as a diplomat. Nothing in his career had prepared him for this. "Mr. Miller, they're ready for you," said a young aide, her voice shaking. John nodded. "Thank you, Susan." He turned to his team. Lisa Brown, 32, with her dark hair pulled back in a neat bun, checked her translator device one more time. As the best linguist in North America, she had spent the last week trying to understand the messages the aliens had sent. Dr. Alan Wright, an older man with thick glasses and wild white hair, was stuffing papers into his briefcase. For 30 years he had written papers about alien life. His colleagues had laughed at him. Now they weren't laughing anymore. "Remember," John said to his team, "we represent all of humanity today. Let's make a good first impression." They were taken by helicopter to the National Mall, where a landing zone had been set up. A smaller ship had come down from one of the big ones. It sat gleaming in the morning sun, its surface like polished metal, but somehow also like water. Ao. Door opened in the side of the ship. 3 creatures stepped out. The first looked like a person-sized fish walking on 2 legs. It had blue-green scales and large, unblinking eyes. Gills on its neck opened and closed as it breathed the air. The second alien sparkled in the sunlight. It seemed to be made of crystal or glass with light bending through its body. It moved smoothly, like water flowing. The third was the strangest. It looked like a giant insect with 4 arms and 2 legs. Its body was covered in a hard shell, and its head had large, compound eyes that seemed to see everything at once. John stepped forward. "On behalf of Earth and all humans, I welcome you to our world. I am John Miller, Chief Diplomat for the United Nations Earth Council." The fish-like creature spoke, its voice bubbling like water. "I am Zortal of the Aquarians. We represent the Galactic Council, a union of 27 spacefaring species." Lisa's translator device hummed, turning the alien words into English. "This is Sha Li of the Lumini," Zortal continued, gesturing to the crystal being. "And Vexna of the Vespari." He pointed to the insect-like creature. "We have watched your world for some time," Zortal said. "We believe you are ready for first contact." The next week was filled with meetings. The aliens shared information about space travel, medicine, and science. They seemed friendly but careful, never giving too much at once. On the 8th day, in a meeting room at the United Nations building in New York, John asked the question everyone wanted answered. "The people of Earth would like to request membership in the Galactic Council," he said. "We are eager to join the community of spacefaring species." The 3 aliens looked at each other. Something passed between them, a silent message. Zortal spoke first. "Your species is interesting, John Miller. You have survived many challenges. You adapt quickly. These are rare traits." "Thank you," John said, feeling a small surge of pride. "However," Zortal continued, "your history troubles us. You fight wars among yourselves. You have damaged your own planet with pollution. You often act without thinking of long-term consequences." Lisa leaned forward. "But we've made great progress. In the last 100 years, we've reduced wars, cleaned up much of our environment, and united most of our world under cooperative governments." Sha Li, the crystal alien, spoke for the first time. Its voice sounded like wind chimes. "Your progress is noted, but the Council has strict standards. We have voted on your case." John felt his heart beating faster. "Earth will be placed under observation status for 500 years, Sha Li said. "During this time you may continue to develop, but you must remain in your solar system." 500 years? John couldn't hide his shock. "You're confining us to our solar system for 5 centuries? It is for your protection and ours," chittered Vexna, the insect alien. "This is standard procedure for developing species." "But we're ready now," argued Lisa. "We can learn, adapt. The decision is made," Zortal said firmly. "In 500 years, your case will be reviewed again." After the meeting, John, Lisa, and Dr. Wright gathered in their hotel room. The mood was dark. "They're treating us like children," John said, pacing the room. Lisa sat at her computer reviewing the meeting recordings. "Something doesn't add up. They seem almost afraid of us." Dr. Wright had been quiet during the meeting. Now he pulled out his tablet. "While you were talking, I was examining the technical documents they shared yesterday. Look at this." He showed them a complicated diagram. "What am I looking at?" John asked. "It's a mining plan," Dr. Wright said. "For Earth, and this," he swiped to another image, "is a study on human genetics." "Why would they need that?" Lisa asked. "I don't know," Dr. Wright said. "But I don't think they're keeping us here for 500 years to protect us. I think they want something from us." John looked out the window at the alien ships still hanging in the sky. "Then we need to find out what that is before it's too late." That night, as the three humans slept, the alien ships glowed softly in Earth's orbit. Inside one of them, Zortal spoke with his superiors through a secure channel. "The humans are contained," he reported. "They do not suspect our true purpose." "Excellent," came the reply from across the stars. "Begin the next phase. In 500 years, Earth will be ready for harvesting, and no one will come to save them." 2 years had passed since the aliens came to Earth. In those 2 years, Dr. Alan Wright had not slept much. He spent his nights looking through alien documents, learning their language, and putting together the puzzle pieces. What he found made his blood run cold. On a rainy Tuesday morning, Dr. Wright stood in an underground room beneath Seattle. The walls were thick concrete. No signals could get in or out. President Olivia Martinez sat at the head of a long table, her face serious. Next to her was Frank Johnson, the defense secretary, a big man with a soldier's eyes. "Thank you for meeting me," Dr. Wright said. His hands shook as he set up his presentation. "What I'm about to show you cannot leave this room." The lights dimmed. A 3D map of the solar system appeared above the table. "The Galactic Council told us they put Earth under observation for our own good," Dr. Wright began. "They said we need to develop for 500 years before we can join them." He pressed a button. Red dots appeared throughout the solar system. "These are Council monitoring stations. They've placed them around every planet, moon, and major asteroid in our system. They say it's to help us and study us." President Martinez leaned forward. "And you don't believe them?" "No, Madam President, I don't." Dr. Wright changed the image. Now they saw alien writing and diagrams. "I've translated these documents from their ship's database. They're not containing us for our protection. They're keeping us here while they prepare to take over our system." Frank Johnson hit the table with his fist. "This is an act of war." "Not exactly," Dr. Wright said. "It's more like farming. They see us as a resource. They plan to slowly move in, take what they want, and manage us." "What do they want?" asked President Martinez. "3 things," Dr. Wright replied. "Our planet's rare minerals, which they need for their technology. Our genetic material, which is different from any species they've found. And us, humans, as workers and test subjects." A heavy silence filled the room. "We're technologically outmatched," President Martinez finally said. "We can't fight them directly." "No," agreed Frank Johnson. "But we can prepare. We need time and a strategy." Meanwhile, in the orbital station where the aliens had set up their main base, Lisa Brown was having coffee with Tirpel, a young Aquarian scientist. Over the past 2 years, Lisa had made friends with several junior members of the alien delegation. She found that the younger aliens were more open, less guarded. "Your Earth coffee is wonderful," said Tirpel, his gills fluttering with pleasure as he sipped from his cup. "We have nothing like this in Aquarian culture." Lisa smiled. "I'm glad you like it. Tell me, Tirpel, Do all members of the council agree with the decision to keep Earth isolated for 500 years? Tirpel looked around nervously, then lowered his voice. No. Several younger civilizations argued for your immediate inclusion. Earth has much to offer. Then why were we denied? Lisa asked, keeping her voice casual. The ancient species, the ones we call the founders, overruled the others. They've been in power for thousands of years. Have they done this before? Kept other species isolated? Tirpel's gills fluttered nervously. Yes, usually worlds rich in resources or with interesting biological properties. Lisa felt a chill. What happened to those worlds? They were integrated. Their populations relocated to work colonies. Their cultures preserved only in council archives. You mean they were conquered? Tirpel looked down. We don't use that word. But yes. Once a world is fully studied and preparations complete, the founders begin the integration process. And how long does that usually take? For a world like Earth, perhaps 50 to 100 years. That night, Lisa sent an encrypted message to Earth Command. The message went to Carol Watson, head of the newly formed Stellar Defense Initiative. Carol was a tall woman with short gray hair and the mind of a chess player. She always thought 10 moves ahead. Carol read Lisa's message 3 times. Then she began writing notes for what would later be called the Exodus Protocol. The next morning in the White House Situation Room, Carol presented her idea to President Martinez and a small group of world leaders. We can't beat them with weapons, Carol said, but we can leave. Leave Earth? Asked the President of India, shocked. Not all of us, Carol explained, but enough to ensure humanity's survival and freedom. We build generation ships, massive vessels designed to carry thousands of people to distant stars, beyond council, space. Can we do that? Asked the Chinese premier. Our technology isn't advanced enough. Not yet, Carol admitted, but we've learned much from the council's shared knowledge. If we focus all our resources on this project and keep it secret from the aliens, I believe we can do it within 20 years. 20 years to develop technology that took them thousands of years, doubted the European Union president. We have advantages, Carol said. Humans learn quickly. We adapt. We're good at taking others' ideas and making them better. The council knows this. It's why they fear us. President Martinez stood up. We'll need a cover. The aliens are watching us. If they suspect what we're doing, they'll stop us. I have a plan for that too, Carol said. We build in secret, underground. On the far side of the moon, we create the biggest misdirection in human history. The room fell silent as the world leaders considered the bold plan. If we fail, said Frank Johnson, we risk everything. And if we do nothing, responded Carol, we lose everything for certain. President Martinez looked at each person in the room. We came from many countries, many backgrounds, but today we are just humans, and humans don't surrender their future. She took a deep breath. Project Exodus begins now. In orbit, the alien ships continued their silent watch over Earth, unaware that beneath them, humanity had just chosen a path that would change the galaxy forever. 10 years had passed since humanity learned the truth about the Galactic Council. On the surface, Earth looked normal. People went to work, children went to school, and life continued as it always had. But this was just what the aliens were allowed to see. Deep beneath the lunar surface, in huge caves dug by giant machines, humans worked day and night on their secret plan. Steve Rogers, a former construction worker from Chicago, now led the building of the massive ships that would carry humanity to the stars. Steve stood in the main lunar hangar, looking up at the first ship. It was called Liberty. The ship was as big as a small city, with levels for farms, homes, schools, and everything else humans would need for a journey that might last for generations. Will she be ready on time? Steve asked. Kelly Davis, the lead engineer, nodded. Her hands were dirty from working on engine parts all day. The quantum displacement drive works. We tested it on unmanned probes last month. It can take us beyond council space where their sensors can't track us. And they won't see us leave? Kelly smiled. The drive bends space around the ship. To their sensors, we'll simply disappear. They'll never know which direction we went. While the ships were being built on the moon, Earth was putting on the greatest show in human history. Paul Winters, head of Earth Intelligence, ran a worldwide deception campaign. His team fed false data to alien sensors. They created fake news and events. They built entire empty cities with robot residents to fool the aliens' population counts. The Council only has direct contact with a small number of humans, Paul explained to his team. They rely on their sensors and monitoring stations for most of their information. As long as those sensors tell them what they expect to see, they won't suspect anything. In North America, Dr. Mary Garcia led an alien delegation on a tour of what they thought was a typical human city. In reality, the buildings were mostly empty shells. The people on the streets were the few humans who had volunteered to stay behind, plus advanced robots designed to look human from a distance. "Your species seems calmer than when we first met," said Zortal, who was now the Council's chief representative to Earth. "You have accepted your status well." "We have come to understand our place in the galaxy," Dr. Garcia replied with a carefully practiced smile. She had rehearsed this tour for weeks. The aliens nodded, pleased. They did not notice the small devices, hidden throughout the city, that projected false heat signatures to make it seem fully populated. They did not realize that most of the real humans had already been secretly moved to the moon. Each night, when the alien delegation returned to their orbital station, ships carried more people from Earth to the lunar bases. The massive underground hangars on the far side of the moon, hidden from both Earth and alien sensors, buzzed with activity as the Exodus ships neared completion. Liberty was almost ready. 5 other ships were close behind: Defiance, Hope, Perseverance, Courage, and Unity. Together they would carry 10 million humans to the stars in the first wave. More ships would follow later, until all who wished to leave had gone. On the lunar base, children who had been born there had never seen the open sky of Earth. They trained in simulators, learning how to operate the ships that would be their homes. They studied the stars and dreamed of new worlds beyond Council control. "Will we ever come back to Earth?" asked 8-year-old Sam Lee during a class lesson. His teacher, Henry Wilson, looked thoughtful. "Someday, Sam. When we're strong, enough that the Council can't tell us what to do anymore." In the command center of the lunar base, Carol Watson, now older but still sharp-minded, met with the captains of the 6 Exodus ships. They studied star maps showing regions beyond Council space. "We believe these stars here have habitable planets," Carol said, pointing to a cluster of lights on the map. "They're far from any known Council worlds." "How long will the journey take?" asked Grace Williams, who would command Liberty. "With the quantum drive, 2 years to reach the edge of Council space," Carol said. "After that, perhaps another 3 years to the target stars. The ships can sustain you for a century if needed." "And those who stay behind?" asked Dan Foster, captain of Defiance. Carol's face grew serious. "They know the risks. They've volunteered to keep up the deception for as long as possible, to give the ships time to get away. When the Council finally realizes what's happened, it will be too late." That night, as the final preparations were made, Steve Rogers stood at a viewport looking back at Earth. The blue planet hung in space, beautiful and fragile. "Are we doing the right thing?" he asked Kelly, who stood beside him. "Leaving our home?" Kelly placed her hand on the glass. "I ask myself that every day. But what choice do we have? Stay and become slaves? I just hope those who come after us remember where we came from." "They will," Kelly said firmly. "Every ship carries Earth's history, art, music, everything that makes us human. Wherever we go, Earth goes with us." Below them, in the massive hangar, the first 100,000 humans were boarding Liberty. They carried only what they needed, leaving behind homes, possessions, and centuries of human history on Earth. But they took with them something the Council had not counted on: the unbreakable human spirit and the determination to remain free. Liberty's giant doors began to close, preparing for humanity's greatest journey. A message spread through the lunar base. 5 days until departure, the stars await. 50 years had passed since the aliens first came to Earth. Today was the day humanity had planned for, worked for, and sacrificed for. It was time to leave. In the control room of the lunar base, Carol Watson stood before screens showing the 6 massive ships. Her hair was white now, her face lined with age, but her eyes still burned with determination. "All ships report ready status," said her assistant, a young man named Peter Clark. Carol nodded. "Begin departure sequence." Aboard Liberty, Commander Grace Williams sat in the captain's chair on the bridge. Around her, the crew worked at their stations, checking systems and preparing for the greatest journey in human history. "Main power at 100%, reported the chief engineer. "Life support systems functioning normally," said another officer. "Quantum displacement drive online," added a third. Grace took a deep breath. 10 years of her life had gone into preparing for this moment. "Send the signal to all ships. Prepare for launch." Throughout the 6 vessels, final preparations were made. Children were secured in special areas designed to protect them during the initial acceleration. Doctors checked on patients in the medical bays. Farmers made sure their plants and animals were secure. These ships carried everything: libraries of human knowledge, seed banks with every plant species from Earth, frozen embryos of animals, art, music, and most precious of all, humanity's future. In the Council's central chamber on the distant planet Nexus Prime, the emergency alarm suddenly blared. Grand Arbiter Kirvosh of the founder species called the emergency session to order. He was ancient, even by the standards of his long-lived kind, with skin like old tree bark, and eyes that had seen thousands of years of galactic history. "Explain, immediately," he demanded of the monitoring officers. A nervous Vespari officer stepped forward, his insect wings buzzing with stress. "Great Arbiter, we have detected unusual energy readings from Earth's moon." "What kind of readings?" "Quantum displacement activations of a type we've never seen before." Another officer, a Lumini whose crystal body pulsed with alarmed light patterns, spoke next. "We are also detecting a major population anomaly. Earth's human population appears to have decreased by several billion within the past 24 hours. Kirvosh rose from his seat, his ancient frame trembling with rage. "That is impossible. How could 8 billion humans vanish without our sensors detecting it?" "The readings showed normal population distributions until yesterday," stammered the monitoring chief. "We have been deceived." On the Bridge of Liberty, Grace Williams looked at the main view screen one last time. It showed Earth and the moon, humanity's home for all of its long history until this moment. "The Council has detected our energy signatures," reported Ben Carter, the communications officer. "They're sending messages demanding explanation." Grace nodded. "It's time. Send our message." Ben pressed a series of controls. Broadcasting on all frequencies, in all known languages. Throughout Council space, on every communication device, screen, and broadcasting system, humans delivered their farewell to the Galactic Council. "For 50 years you have judged us unworthy of joining your community as equals. You plan to exploit our world while claiming to protect us. Today humanity chooses a different path. We leave behind our homeworld not in defeat, but in defiance. We journey to distant stars beyond your influence, where we will build a society based on true equality among species. Should you ever reconsider your ways, representatives of humanity will remain on Earth to hear your apology. If not, know this: the children of Earth will return one day and we will not be contained." In the council chamber, the younger representatives from newer species stood in silent respect as the message played. Many had argued against the treatment of Earth. Now they watched as history unfolded before them. "Stop them," shouted Kirvosh. "Deploy the defense fleet." But it was too late. On the screens showing Earth's solar system, 6 massive energy signatures flared and then vanished as the quantum displacement drives activated. The human ships disappeared from all sensors, their destination unknown, their trail impossible to follow. "They cannot have developed such technology," whispered an elder Aquarian. It should be beyond them. We underestimated them, said a young Lumini representative. Just as many of us warned you would. Back on Liberty, cheers erupted throughout the ship as the quantum drive engaged. The familiar solar system vanished from the view screens, replaced by the strange, twisted light of quantum space. Grace Williams stood up from her captain's chair. Communications, send the message to the other ships. All ships report successful. Jump, Ben confirmed. We're free, Captain. Grace turned to face her bridge crew. For the first time in human history, we travel beyond our solar system. We leave behind our home, but we carry Earth in our hearts. Set course for the Lyra cluster. Our new home awaits. In the council chamber, the stunned silence was broken by Zortal, now old and wiser than when he had first visited Earth. He looked at the empty screens where the human ships had been. We judge them by their past, he said softly, never considering what their future might hold. He turned to face the Grand Arbiter and the assembled council. The humans have done what no species has ever done before. They escaped our control, and they did it not through violence but through intelligence, cooperation, and determination. They are dangerous, insisted Kirvosh. When they return, interrupted Zortal, they will find either a council that has learned from its mistakes, or they will find that we are no longer the power we once were. Either way, the galaxy has changed today. He looked once more at the screens showing Earth, now a quiet blue marble in space, occupied only by those few humans who had chosen to stay behind, and now, he said, it is too late to fix it. 2 years had passed since the human ships had vanished from the solar system. Liberty led the fleet through the strange realm of quantum space, where normal rules of physics did not apply. Light bent in impossible ways. Time moved differently. The stars outside looked like streaks of paint across a black canvas. On the main deck of Liberty, Commander Grace Williams studied the latest reports. The ship's systems were working well. The farms were producing food. Babies had been born. People had died. Life continued, even as humanity traveled farther from Earth than anyone had ever gone before. Captain, we're approaching the exit point, said Eric Nelson, the navigation officer. His fingers moved quickly over the glowing controls. Grace nodded. Prepare the ship for return to normal space. Alert the other vessels. Alarms sounded throughout Liberty, warning everyone to secure themselves and their belongings. Quantum space exit could be rough. Quantum drive powering down in 3, 2, 1, counted the chief engineer. The ship shuddered. For a moment, everything seemed to stretch like rubber. Then, with a flash of light, Liberty emerged into normal space. The other 5 ships followed one by one. On the main view screen, a star system appeared. A yellow sun, much like Earth's, shone in the center. Around it orbited 9 planets. Scan the 3rd planet, ordered Grace. The bridge fell silent as the sensors did their work. Then Ben Carter, now promoted to science officer, looked up from his station with wide eyes. It's perfect, he said. Oxygen atmosphere, liquid water, temperatures similar to Earth, abundant plant life. He paused. No signs of intelligent life or technology. An empty world, Grace said softly. Waiting for us, the 6 ships moved toward the blue-green planet. As they entered orbit, everyone crowded around viewports to see their new home. Forests covered much of the land. Oceans sparkled in the sunlight. White clouds drifted in the sky. It looks like Earth used to look, said Kelly Davis, standing beside Steve Rogers. Before we built cities everywhere. A fresh start, Steve replied. A chance to do things right this time. Over the next month, small scout ships went down to check the planet's surface. They tested the air, water, and soil. They studied the local plants and animals. Everything seemed safe for humans. On a clear morning, the first landing party prepared to go down. 1,000 people had been chosen for this honor. They would build the first settlement, which would be called New Hope. Grace Williams stood before them in the main hangar. Today, we put boots on our new world. We call it Terra, Nova, New Earth, remember why we came here? Not just to escape the Council, but to build something better than what we left behind. The landing ships descended through fluffy white clouds. Below, a wide valley spread between two mountain ranges. A river ran through it, emptying into a large lake. The ships landed on a flat plain near the water. When the doors opened, people stepped out slowly, their feet touching alien soil for the first time. The air smelled fresh and clean. A warm breeze blew. In the distance, animals that looked something like deer watched curiously before running away. Dan Harris, a farmer from Iowa, knelt and ran his fingers through the soil. "Good earth," he said with a smile. "Things will grow well here." Over the next weeks, the settlement took shape. Houses were built, fields were planted. Children ran and played under an alien sky that soon began to feel like home. In orbit, the big ships remained, serving as space stations and manufacturing centers. More people came down each day. By the end of the first year, 50,000 humans lived on Terra Nova. But not everyone had forgotten Earth or the Galactic Council. In a special building in New Hope, a group of scientists and military planners met regularly. They called themselves the Watchers. Their job was to remember, to plan, and to prepare. Laura Chen, head of the Watchers, spread star charts on a table. "We know the Council won't forget us. Someday, they'll find us. By then, we'll be ready," said George Wilson, formerly of Earth's military. "We're learning from the alien technology we brought with us. In a few generations, we'll build our own fleet, stronger than anything the Council has." "And what then?" asked a younger scientist. "Revenge?" Laura shook her head. "Protection. We'll return to Earth someday, not to fight, but to free those we left behind, and to show the Council that humans cannot be controlled or contained." On the 5th anniversary of the landing, the people of New Hope gathered for a celebration. Under the light of 3 moons, they ate, drank, sang, and danced. Children born on Terra Nova played with those born on Earth, neither group fully understanding how amazing their presence on this world truly was. Grace Williams, now governor of the colony, raised a glass. "To those we left behind," she said. "To Earth," the crowd responded. "And to our future," Grace continued, "among the stars." As the celebration continued, no one noticed a small light moving across the night sky. A Council scout ship that had finally tracked the quantum trail to this distant world. Aboard it, a young Aquarian observer recorded what he saw, then sent his ship back toward Council space. The message would take 20 years to reach Nexus Prime. By then, the human colony would be too strong to easily remove. By then, more human ships would have arrived from Earth carrying millions more to freedom. By then, the Galactic Council would truly understand what they had done by underestimating humanity, and it would be far, far too late to fix it.